Hello you lovely lot, my name is Max, welcome back to my YouTube channel and another Nottingham Forest player profile where today we are talking about Houssem Aouar, the French international heavily linked to the Reds over the course of the last week or so for a fee in the region of £15 million. We're going to be discussing his rise to that Lyon first team and how he's been deployed over the course of his 5 to 6 years at the club, including how potentially this could translate to the Premier League with Nottingham Forest. So it goes without saying, if you enjoy that kind of content, don't forget to drop a like on this video, subscribe to the channel and ring the notification bell so you don't miss a single player profile or the match previews that come to you every single Nottingham Forest match day. With that being said, let's get started with Houssem Aouar. Houssem Aouar was born in 1998 in the French city of Lyon, and although being a full French international, he is of Algerian descent. At the age of 11, he would join the Lyon Academy, spending 7 years learning his craft in one of the most prestigious academy systems in France that has produced fellow French-Algerian talents like Nabil Fekir and Karim Benzema, making his first team debut in 2017 in the Europa League. And like I mentioned there, he made his debut for the club in the Europa League, taking on the Dutch side AZ Alkmaar, and would go on to make around 5 appearances during this very limited period at the back end of the season for Lyon. However, the subsequent season of 2017-18 would be his breakout campaign, making 44 appearances in all competitions, helping his team reach 3rd in Ligue 1 and being nominated for that year's Golden Boy Award, which would be subsequently won by Ajax's Matthijs de Ligt. And as he heads into the final year of his contract, this has been where Aouar has been ever since, making over 200 appearances for his boyhood club, with his greatest achievement reaching the semi-finals at the 2020 curtailed, COVID-affected Champions League season, being nominated and eventually selected for that year's team of the tournament. Before we get into the stats, it is worth noting that Aouar plays the majority of his minutes in the centre of midfield, although can play as a number 10 or left of an attacking midfield 3. So it's worth bearing in mind as this could skew some of his numbers. Defensively, Aouar completes around 3.5 tackles and interceptions per 90 minutes and 18 pressures per 90 as well. Nothing special, with the majority of these defensive actions taking place in the midfield and final third of the pitch. It's hard to call him a traditional box-to-box midfielder. He does a lot of the defensive work he does in the final third, pressing for the team. Ladies and gentlemen, where he excels is in possession, and I'm rubbing my hands together as I read you these absolutely phenomenal stats. Top 1% of midfielders in Europe for both dribbles attempted and completed per 90 minutes. The top 5% of European midfielders for progressive carries and carries into the final third. The top 1% of midfielders for carries into the penalty area, and the top 15% of European midfielders for passes into the final third and into the penalty area. Now I understand that might be slightly hard to keep track of. What I basically mentioned there is that he is one of the elite, if not the elite, ball carrying central midfielders in Europe, and that is a huge attribute for a team who are looking to counter-attack like Nottingham Forest. His ability to peel forward on the counter-attack, carrying his team forward and getting the ball into the final third and the box, arguably is unrivaled amongst players in his position. Essentially, he's like Lewis O'Brien dialed up to 11. So when you look at him amongst other midfield options in that Forest squad at the moment, I would argue he's probably top, if not second best, alongside Remo Freuler. For me, he walks into our midfield week in, week out with no issues. His flexibility, being able to play higher at the pitch and in a more defensive position, makes him a great asset for a Premier League side like Nottingham Forest. And at 24 years old, the sky's the limit with this lad. With that being said though, let's briefly touch on the tactical side of his game, and particularly how last season under Peter Bosz he was deployed for Lyon. Last season under former Dortmund and Ajax manager Peter Bosz, Lyon preferred to play a 4-3-3 or 4-2-3-1 shape, with a man Aouar playing on the left-hand side of that midfield, whether it's a midfield 3 or a 2 and then a 1, offering good defensive coverage and that sort of traditional progressive role alongside a more defensive-minded midfielder and someone like Lucas Paqueta, who can occupy a 3-8 role like at Manchester City, where he's able to play in the lines, drift wide and have the defensive coverage behind him. Now it's hard to call what Aouar actually does for Lyon a box-to-box role like we mentioned earlier. A lot of the defensive work that he does for the team consists in the final third. If you look at pressures and tackles, these are predominantly done in the final third in a high and aggressive vertical team that looks to transition the ball in the final third to create goal scoring opportunities when they're out of possession. Last season in Ligue 1, only 3 teams completed more high turnovers than Lyon in the league, and they created the second most chances from these high turnovers turnovers in the league, suggesting that they are a very aggressive side looking to turn the ball over high in the final third. Often when the team is sort of playing around the back, they'll get into a very aggressive pressing shape, and Aouar's role in this system is very important at picking the ball up and driving the team towards the final third to create goal scoring opportunities. The last thing I kind of want to touch on here with Lyon is potentially a slight downside of a player like Aouar coming into the club. When you look at Nottingham Forest last season, they were a side heavily reliant on high turnovers. They were very direct and quick in their attacking approach. When you look at Lyon, on the other hand, they ranked very highly for passes per attacking sequence and very lowly for direct attacking speed. Kind of the opposite to a side like Nottingham Forest. Now, I don't think this is going to be too big of a problem for a player of the quality of Aouar, but it is something potentially worth noting that he's going to go from a team that's very dominant on the ball quite often. He's going to get a lot of passes off, a lot of chances to create opportunities, to a side that doesn't see a lot of the ball, looks to transition quickly, and it's going to be a case of whether he's good enough to adjust to the speed in transition and offer that in this Forest side. Something that we were lacking in our open couple of games of the season, where we could be a bit slow and pedestrian on the counter-attack. We need someone to come in here and speed up our transition, and Aouar potentially could not be that player. I'm not sure yet. And finally, just to touch on potentially where he would fit in this Nottingham Forest system, of course, his natural fit would be in one of those two central midfield positions. Probably on the left. He has a bias, when you look at his positions, to predominantly play off the left-hand side of the teams that he plays off, particularly at Lyon. He could also play in that number 10 position. I actually think against more ball dominant sides, having a more disruptive number 10 like Aouar in there could be more advantageous than someone like a Lingard who wants the ball to create chances. Overall, if this deal actually happens, I think it could go down as potentially one of the deals of the summer, not just for Forest, not just in the Premier League, potentially in Europe. 15 million quid for a qualified Champions League level player, someone who 2 or 3 years ago, Arsenal and Man City were touted as a potential midfield option. I understand he's going into the last year of his contract, but it would be an absolute coup for a side like Forest to pick him up. I think him alongside Freuler and Lingard is potentially a top half Europa League level midfield. Certainly in my mind, I can't think of too many outside the big six better than that, apart from maybe Newcastle. Overall, I have absolutely zero issues with the move for Houssem Aouar. He's the perfect age going into the final year of his deal, so he won't cost us as much as other teams looking at him a couple of years ago. Has buckets of experience at 24 years old, including over 200 appearances in a top European league. For me, this is an A+ signing. It gets the seal of approval and could be a game-changing signing for the Reds. And I actually put the call out to my subscribers and asked them what they think of the potential signing of Houssem Aouar. And as you can see, 92% of them think he would be a great pickup for the Reds, someone who we should be signing up as quickly as possible. But what do you think? Let me know in that comment section down below. For me, could go down as one of the deals of the summer, not just in the Prem, but in the whole of Europe. But of course, your opinions, as always, in that comment section. And whilst you're down there, don't forget to drop a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, ring the notification bell, and you will never miss a single player profile or the returning match previews. And with that being said, thank you so much for watching, Reds. I will catch you later.